Alright, here is the program dot matcher that we're going to use initially to develop dot plots. And that link is right here. I'm going to put this on the announcement. And we'll be using Yaz, and this is that explanation that I said you probably needed to read and use to do your explanation, to do your explanations of the dot plots. This link is going to allow you to produce your dot plots. So let's go to this website. Here I am at dotmatcher, and you can browse and go grab your FASTA files if you want. If you have them as separate FASTA files, that would be like GPX1, and maybe this would be GPX2 or 3 or 4, or actually I wanted you to do GPX1 versus GPX1 as well. But I'll put that in the explanation of the assignment. But here, what we want is just to compare to. Now, you could just cut and paste your sequence instead of making a bunch of extra FASTAs. You can just go in there and cut and paste your sequence. Do not put in the first line, of course, that is the description. You just need to put in the letters. So let's do something. I'm going to put in AGCT, AGCT, AGCT. So it's a repeat of the same 4 letters. And if you remember, I said if you have repeats, it's going to show up as a lot of parallel lines. So that's what we should see. Now here's the hard part. You have to look at how many of these are we going to need to get a dot. In other words, in the explanation I gave you, it just said you put a dot everywhere, it's the same. But these sequences are really long, and that's not the way you actually do it in practice here. So what they'll do instead is they'll just look at 3 letters at a time, and there'll be a percentage threshold that will say put a dot there or not. For instance, I have AGC here, and maybe I want it to be where it has to be exactly like 100%, or it has to be all three letters have to be exactly the same to get a dot. Maybe other times, if you're looking at just 3 out of the letters as you go through there, maybe you only want 2 of them to be the same and you'd get a dot. Let's do it a few times. I think you'll get the idea. So our threshold, let's make our threshold just, let's make it 3. Alright, so we're going to look at each 3 letters at a time, and then how many of those letters have to be the same. Let's make it all 3. I think I'm doing that right. I think that's a number, not a percentage. It would be like 100% if it were a percentage, and I think the threshold is 3. So we're going to look at 3 letters, and all 3 have to be identical for you to get a dot. And so then I'm going to run this, and we're going to see what we get. And it's exactly as you would expect. It's a lot of parallel lines. Here's your primary here, and then you get a lot of parallel lines. Now this is running in the opposite direction as the one we did before, but they were running this way, but that's just a choice of the programmer. They wanted to make it run from right to left instead of from left to right. So let's expand our sequence a little bit. Let me just see if I can just copy. I'm going to cut and paste this to make it a little longer. We'll copy, and I'm going to put in that, and then I'll do the same here. But I'm going to change a few letters here in the end. I'm going to put a T, maybe, a capital T, make sure. Alright, and let's make this G a C. Alright, so now we've had some mutations. Let's put 1 back here. Let's make that an A. So there are like 3 or 4 mutations, and now let's see what happens if we run this. How does it look different? Well, it looks the same. And why is that? Or well, it's longer, of course, but because our threshold, actually it should be there should be a link. I didn't put the threshold that high. Maybe maybe it is like 100. So let's try this. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Alright, maybe I go that way. Oh, yeah, let's do it that way. And maybe it just doesn't show the distinction. See what happens when you put in 50%. Nothing. Alright. How about 4? This will tell us if it's based on percentages or not. Yeah, I think it is based on percentages. But it shouldn't give us the 100. It may not be that sensitive. This is not the one I use all the time. I have my own program, and we don't have access to that. Wrong one. There's your other explanation. Here we go. All right. Let's try stretching it too. Oh, it doesn't like that. Maybe it has to do with the 99. Yeah. Alright. Let's make this 1. And our threshold is 1. This may be what I have you do. It's right here, this. Yeah, you get everything. But you don't get the, you don't get gaps like I was expecting. We did change it. Let's change it quite a bit. Let's even add some extra pieces. Now let's see what we get. There we go. This is what I was looking for. It's just not sensitive. It's not we don't have a long enough sequence to see a lot of these. So, in other words, it's 1-to-1. You're looking at each letter, and then you're forcing it to get every one of them the same. So this would be like 100% of 1. Each 1 out of 1 must be a match, which makes sense. So this is what it would look like there. Let's go back real quick, and then let's move it back to 3. Let's make it 5, and we will make it where you only have to have 4 out of 5 the same. So only 4 out of 5 have to be the same to get a dot. Ah, yes, and so now it crams them together. So what I want you to do is make it 100%. Just make it 1 and 1 for your assignment. Usually I'm used to the percentage, giving you a percentage, but 1 out of 1, of course, would be 100%. So in other words, you have to have a 100% match to get anything to show up. And that's when you'll get something like this. You might play with it. If you get something that's blank, you might reduce it. So let's say we're doing 4 at a time, and we want 2 out of 4. That's 50%. That's pretty high. That's going to make it easy to make it. Everything should run together when you have something like that. Yep, you do get some blanks over here because we put in some sequences that didn't match even out of 4 out of 4. So this makes sense. All right, now what you're likely to get is a straight line with just tiny little slivers out here. So put it in, and let's see what you get. This is kind of a hodgepodge assignment, but at least it gets you to know where the software is and how to put the data in. And if we have to go back and learn how to get these numbers here to work right. So what, like I said, for what this is doing is I'm looking at 4 letters at a time, and if 2 out of the 4 match, then you get a dot. If we increase this, or let's decrease it. No, let's increase it. Let's make it 5 letters, and you have to get 4 correct. Let's see what that looks like real quick. Yeah, And so now that piece we added on just doesn't show up over here anymore because you're not getting not enough of them are showing up. Now these repeats are still showing up. Now what you'll get, like I said, is probably a long line, and you'll probably get little dashes out in here in the sides. That's probably what you should expect to see. So work on this. I'm not going to grade this hard. Just essentially, I want to see that you can put these together and try to, if you get blanks, like blank sheets, then that's when you should, that's when you should start manipulating the threshold and the window size. I don't want blank. I also don't want it covered in like all black. You know, if you make it too easy for it, it'll just, everything will match. So if you make it like 5 and 1, then the whole thing will match. If you make it 5 and 5, you might not get anything. So you have to move these numbers around. I would suggest starting with 3 and 3, and then moving it down to, if you don't get anything, move to 3 and 2. And if it goes like totally black or something with that, then I would move it up to maybe, you could probably move it up to 10 and go 7, because your sequences are going to be much longer than mine. In fact, that's what I would say. For your assignment, start out with something like 10 and 7. All right, and if it's all black, then that means that's too easy and you need to raise this number. If it's all white, you need to lower that number. So, but I'd start out with 10. You might go up to 10, maybe even 15, and then change this number. So this is going to be like 70%. So you have to get 70% match to get a dot. And so start out with 10 and 7. If it doesn't work, then I would move this one up and down first. And if it still doesn't work, then raise this one. And of course you have to raise this one up as well. So if it doesn't work with 10 and moving this one up and down, then you go up to like 15 and make this one 12, and then start moving up and down. And see if you can't get it where you get an interesting looking dot plot. Something like that like this one. This is actually about what you should see. You should end up seeing something like this here with a lot of dashed lines. Looks like perforated paper or something that you would tear out. You should see something like this. This is solid. You should definitely see these little dashes out here on the side. That should be another one. This would be interesting if you saw it. I don't want these. These don't tell you much. That's too much. You need to get something like these. Let's see, anything else? This is common. This means you don't have much of anything. This might be something you might see, something very similar to that. All right, that's kind of what I'm looking for. But do your best. If you have problems, this is kind of a thrown together exercise, but try it just to get, if nothing else, just to get a feel for this application. When I come back, I'll give you the translation exercise.